It's very rare in the world of professional wrestling that you get to go out on your own terms. And after today, we can confirm that Bill Goldberg has added his name to the list of the people who did it. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Kevin Zwicker from Fast Count coming at you. Before I get into this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe. So after this massive weekend of professional wrestling, one of the main takeaways, one of the biggest attractions coming into it was the last match of Bill Goldberg's career. Whether you are a fan or not, I don't think it is a big deal or a mistake for me to say that he's one of the biggest names in professional wrestling in the last 30 years. So obviously this was going to be a big deal for a big amount of people. It was in his adopted hometown of Atlanta in Saturday night's main event, which was the main event of the show. So today he goes on to have an interview with Ariel Helwani, somebody who is obviously on the top of Tony Khan's Christmas card list. And we start off this interview, asking the questions that, a lot of people would like to know, right? How long was this in motion? When did you know that this was going to happen? Did you know it was going to be against Gunther? Did you know it was going to be on Saturday night's main event? Did you know it was going to be Atlanta? All the questions that people would want to know, right? And we get confirmation from Bill that, this was in the works. At some point last year, whether it was around November or December, this was kind of the working idea, and it didn't really become official till January, right? And he goes on to talk about, and he's answering these questions, very long-winded, right? He goes on to talk about, he's like, we got kind of this 3-week build for the most part. I was honored to go against Gunther, in Atlanta on Saturday night's main event, but it wasn't really the way that, I kind of pictured this thing was going to go. But, hey, I'm not going to complain. Well, I'll just get done complaining. And then, Ariel starts prodding him. He's like, well, where did you kind of want this match? Would you have wanted this on a PLE? And Goldberg says, yes, obviously because of the constraints of network television, all these different commercial breaks, which was a killer, a momentum killer for, the match between him and Gunther, right? And then he goes on to say, we just kind of really just had this 3-week build. I would have really liked it to be this thing that we started building up from January and hyping it up until now. And he feels like his career, kind of warrants that. And then he goes on to talk about how at the end of the match, his speech was cut in like 20 seconds in, and it was just done. And he goes on to say, they wouldn't have done that to John Cena. They wouldn't have done that to The Undertaker. I thought my career would warrant, more than this. Basically saying that he thinks he would have deserved more respect than what he got, right? All of these things kind of goes back to my mind where we saw Goldberg have an interview at some point last year, right? And he's been talking about wanting to have this retirement match for almost a year now. So this isn't something that's just out of the blue. This is something that has been talked about for a good amount of time, that the next time we see him in the ring, it's going to be his last match. He was talking about how, Vince McMahon, promised him this retirement match and owed him a retirement match and called him a piece of shit, Not talking about his personal life, just called him a piece of shit because he didn't get that retirement match. For me, WWE has been very good to Bill Goldberg and very good to the Goldberg family, especially when it comes to the bank account department. Ever since he made his return to WWE in 2017, where he had that match at Survivor Series against Brock Lesnar, throughout this years of him, on and on, appearing on WWE television, he has gotten world title matches. He has gotten paid big amounts of money to work these 3-4 minute matches in Saudi Arabia. He's been given the world title. He has been treated perfectly appropriate in my mind and has been given so much from WWE over the years. I kind of look at it at a point where it's just like, what more do they owe you? They have treated you so well. They have put you in positions to shine. They have worked around your limited abilities in the ring to try to make you look as good as they possibly can due to the circumstances. And the guy still is complaining, right? This is something to where it's just like, dude, what more could they give you? I think every wrestler going forward now, when they're mapping out their retirement tours, are going to look at what AEW did for Sting. And from now on, I consider the way that Sting was treated and the rollout and the way that he was presented for his retirement match and the build-up to it as the gold standard for retirement. of sends aways for all these wrestlers. That's the perfect way that they're going to be sent out. I think that that's the gold standard now. I think that now wrestlers are going to look at that and say, if my send-off isn't nearly as good as that or on the same tier as that, then I wasn't sent out properly. And this is just a shame because throughout this whole interview, he goes on to speak about how, in 2 weeks, he'll be able to speak more clearly. And Ariel presses him and says, well, do you have like an NDA? And he says, let's go with that, something like that. But we're going to hear some more stories, coming pretty soon as to what we got and how far away apart that was from Bill Goldberg's vision of how he went out. But personally, for me, I think that he went out in the most appropriate way. I thought that having the show in Atlanta, adopted hometown, going against Gunther, who is, in my opinion, the best in-ring wrestler in WWE right now, in the main event on a show like Saturday Night's Main Event, it really doesn't get much better than that. And I think it's just sour grapes from Bill. But what do you guys think in the comment section? If you could have fantasy booked Bill Goldberg's farewell tour, what would it have looked like to you? Do you think that Bill is right to gripe about the complaints? Do you think that he went out the right way? Do you think that there was something that you would have rather see the way that he was sent out? Let me know in the comment section. And guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. I am Kevin Zwicker. I'm out.